friends, welcome to my live teaching learning session of Principles of Macroeconomics BECC 133. Today we will discuss about demand and supply of money. What is demand for money? Why people demand for money? Or what are the purposes behind demand for money? And who supplies money in the economy? This topic is very important and very interesting also because this topic will tell you what is demand and why people demand for money. We know that money is a medium of exchange. Money can purchase or sell each and everything which is available in our economy. Money is used for deferred payments also, and money can be easily storable. Money is in generally nothing, but money has purchasing power. That's why everyone wants to keep money in cash form because money has purchasing power. Money can purchase each and everything. That's why people always demand for money. So, in this topic, we will study about what is demand for money and what is supply of money. Now, here is demand for money. In generally, we say that the demand for money is a demand for real money balances. This real money balances means real money shows purchasing power of the country people. People are concerned with how much their money can buy rather than the number of dollars in their pocket. If you have too much money in your pocket but they don't have purchasing power, it means real money balances are very less. But if you have less money in your pocket, but it can purchase more and more goods of the economy, then the real money balance will rise. It means real money balances depends upon purchasing power of the money. And purchasing power of the money depends upon the price level of the products. If price rises, purchasing power of the money will fall. If price falls, purchasing power of money will rise. When purchasing power of money will rise, real money balances will rise. If purchasing power falls, real money balances falls. So real money balances tells us about purchasing power of money. How a money or how the number of dollars in our pocket can purchase goods and services in real world. The demand for real balances depends upon real income and interest rate. Real income is that income which people hold money to pay for their purchases, which in turn depends upon income. Real income is always calculated by dividing money income to price level. If money income is divided by price, then we can get real income. If denominator means price level is higher, real income will be lower. If price level will be lower, then real income will be higher. So real income depends upon the price level which is prevailing in the market, existing in the market. Second point is on which demand for real money balances depends, that is real rate of interest. The rate of interest is the cost of holding money. The higher the interest rate, the more expensive is to hold money, and the less cash will be held at each level of income. Because if rate of interest increases, then people will interested to save their money in banks. In that case, they will hold less cash. And if interest rate is lower, they will discourage to save their money in banks and they will keep more money in cash form. So demand for real money balances depends upon two factors, two things, that is one is real income and other is interest rate. We can define or we can show demand for money in this form like L is equals to KY minus HI. Here L is liquidity preference. Money demand is always known as liquidity preference because according to Keynes, money is very liquid form of asset. Everything which can be converted in terms of money, that will be called near money but not actual money. Actual money is that money which is very liquid and which can purchase or sell any commodity at any time. So L indicates liquidity preference and it also indicates demand for money. And K is the fraction which people want to keep money in cash form. Y is the level of income minus HI. H is a constant variable and I is rate of interest. So here K and H are constant variable, but K shows the fraction of money income which people want to keep in cash form. And Y is the level of income. So demand for money we can write in equation form is equal to L is equals to KY minus HI. So this is the demand for money in real money balances sense. We can define it. Next is demand for money in simply we can say that why people keep money in their pocket or in houses. What are the motives behind holding the money? Demand for money tells us about answers of these questions. That why people demand for money or what are the main purposes behind that. There are mainly three main motives of keeping money in cash form. These three motives are number one is transaction demand for money. Second purpose is precautionary demand for money. And the third motive is speculative demand for money. So, demand for money, according to classical economics, money is demanded by people for sale and purchase and for using transactions. It means, according to classical economics, money is a medium of exchange and people always demand for money only for change exchange purposes, not for others. But Keynes, J.M. Keynes, explained that money is demanded by each and every country people for basically three purposes. And these three purposes are transaction purpose. Transaction means day to day transactions. If we want to purchase our requirements, things or goods and services which can satisfy our basic needs, then we can demand only with the help of money. Second is precautionary. As we know that future is uncertain, unpredictable, each and every person want to save themselves for future uncertainties. That's why everybody wants to keep money in cash form to protect themselves from future uncertainties. And speculative is the main motive for holding money in cash form because speculation through this motive people can make multiple money or generate multiple money with the help of existing money. So these are the three main motives in which we will explain in detail also. Next is these three motives. Three motives you can write in this form also. One is transaction purpose, that is known as transaction motive. Second is precautionary motive, and third is speculative motive. Why people demand for money? According to Keynes, people demanded for money basically for three purposes, and these three purposes are transaction purpose or motive, both are same. Second is precautionary purpose, and third is speculative purpose. Next is Keynes liquidity preference theory. As I have told you earlier, that money is a very liquid form of asset, and people demand for money because money has purchasing power, and money is very liquid form of asset. If you have money, you can easily buy each and every commodity which are produced in our country or in abroad also. But if you don't have money, you have mere money like gold, diamond, property, asset, shares, bonds, debentures, debit card, credit card, all these things are called near money or bill of exchange, etc. These are called near money. Checks are also near money because debit card, credit card are also known as plastic money. These can be used only in a limited place, not everywhere. But if you have money, you can buy any commodity at any time. So Keynes propounded this liquidity preference theory. In this theory, the liquidity preference theory, Keynes asked the question, why do individuals hold money? Why people want to keep money in cash form? He postulated that there are three motives behind the demand for money. And these three purposes are, one is transaction purpose, second is precautionary purpose, and third is speculative purpose. Now, first motive is transaction purpose. Transaction purpose means sale and purchase of any commodity. As we know that each and every person want to buy goods and services for satisfying their basic requirements like wheat, rice, sugar, milk, salt, etc. For day to day transactions, we need cash money because if we don't have cash money, we can't buy our daily basic requirements, we can't satisfy it. So for day to day transaction, we need cash money, and we want to keep this money in cash form for satisfying our daily needs or for doing our day to day transactions. And as we know that people earn money and get salary income at a particular point of time or a particular period of time. It means their income may be received by them in a monthly basis or yearly basis or daily basis. If a person is a daily wage earner, then he don't need to keep money in cash form. But if a person who is getting salary or after a limited time period or specific time period, he is getting wage income, then he must have to keep money in cash form because money is received by the person at a particular point of time. But expenses are incurred daily basis on the basis of regular. So, if there is no synchronization between income and expenditure, then we must have to keep money in cash form. If there is a good synchronization between income and expenditure, income received and expenditures, then good synchronization means less money we will keep in cash form. If there is a bad synchronization between income receipt and expenditures, then we will hold more money in cash form. So primarily determined by the levels of people's transaction, which is proportional to income. Like the classical economics, he took the transaction component of the demand for money to the proportional to income. Demand for money is the function of income, and demand for money for transaction purpose is directly or positively or proportionately related with the level of income. As well as the income rises, demand for transaction purpose will also rise. If income falls, then money demand for transaction purpose will also fall. In this case, diagram will be a 45-degree line. This transaction purpose is not related with the rate of interest. It is related with only the level of income. And how it is related with level of income? Directly, positively, or proportionately. That's why its diagram is always 45-degree line start from the origin. This 45-degree line diagram always shows proportionate change in both variables. It means if income rises, demand for transaction for money will also rise by the same ratio. If income falls, demand for transaction money will also fall proportionately or by the same ratio. Next, Keynesian demand for money, we can explain these three motives in brief. Like transaction demand for money is that money which people hold to pay everyday predictable expenses, or the stock of money which people want to keep in cash form for the payment of everyday transactions or day to day transactions. And precautionary demand for money is called the stock of money which people hold to pay unpredictable or unexpected expenses. Because future is uncertain, any mishappening can be happened in future. No one can predict about that. Like corona pandemic, no one has predicted about this, but it happens. And the cash money which people hold in cash form, it help people for buying and satisfying their basic needs or requirements. If they don't keep money in cash form, they can't satisfy their basic requirements. They can't come out from unpredictable expenses or these pandemic during this pandemic period when their earning was nothing, but their past savings will do more work for satisfying their basic needs or requirements. So precaution, we have to take precaution about future uncertainties, and we have to keep money in cash form for securing ourselves from these uncertainties or unpredictable expenses. Third motive is speculative demand for money. Speculative means, according to Keynes, this is the main motive for holding money in cash form, because everybody wants to make multiple money in a short time period. Everybody wants how he can generate money, how he can make multiple money with the help of existing money. Speculation demand for money tells us about how people can make multiple money with the help of existing money. And people want to keep money in cash form for making more money. This motive is mainly related with rate of interest. And in this case, people buy shares, bonds, stocks, these types of securities for making multiple money. If rate of interest is lower, then people will not encourage to save their money in banks. They will buy bonds. and at lower price they will buy more bonds, and when the price of bonds will become higher they will sell it out and gaining more profit. So speculation demand for money basically depends upon the rate of interest, and it is inversely related with rate of interest, because if rate of interest increases, people will save their money in banks, not buying bonds or securities. They will not buy this type of asset. But if rate of interest falls, people will buy more bonds and shares to make multiple money. Generally, people always buy bonds when price of bond is lower, and they sell bonds when the price of bond is higher. In that case, they can earn more money or profit. If they buy at higher price and sell at lower price, they will not get profit. But the aim of the person is to getting more profit, to make multiple money. That's why they are holding money for this speculation purpose. So in speculation demand for money, the stock of money people hold to take advantage of expected future changes in the price of bonds, stocks, etc. So this is the main motive for holding money in cash form, because from this motive we can make multiple money or we can generate more money. Now, what is demand for money? We can show demand for money with the help of diagrams. The demand for money is generally the relationship between the quantity of real money balances demanded and the interest rate. Generally, money is demanded for three purposes. First is transaction purpose, second is precautionary purpose, and third is speculative purpose. Transaction purpose is directly related with the level of income. Or, in other words, we can say that demand for transaction purposes for money is the function of income. As well as income rises, demand for transaction purpose money will rise. If income falls, demand for transaction purpose money will fall. Second purpose is precautionary purpose. Precautionary purpose tells us that people want to keep money, want to hold money in cash form for securing themselves from future uncertainties. Precautionary purpose is also related with the level of income, not to the rate of interest. If income rises, demand for money for precautionary purpose will also rise by the same ratio. If income falls, demand for precautionary purpose will also fall. People will hold less money in cash form if income is less. So both are the function of level of income. But the speculation demand for money is the function of rate of interest. And speculation demand for money is always inversely related with the rate of interest. At higher rate of interest, demand for speculation purpose money will fall. And at lower rate of interest, demand for speculation money will rise. There is a inverse or negative relationship between demand for bonds and rate of interest. Now we can graphically show these purposes, how we can draw diagram of transaction purpose or transaction motives for demand for money, because transaction and precautionary purpose both are the same function of income. That's why the demand for transaction money and demand for precautionary purpose both will remain same. Generally, the demand curve, when we show the relationship between demand for money with interest rate, then curve will be downward sloping. inverse relationship between interest rate and quantity of money. If interest rate increases, demand for money falls. If interest rate decreases, simple money demand curve, not to speculation purpose. So speculation demand for money, because we know that that is inversely related with the rate of interest. That's why this demand curve shows only the third purpose of demand for money, which is speculation purpose. This is always downward sloping, which shows inverse relationship between quantity of money and interest rate. Transaction motive is always related with the need of cash for current transactions, for personal and business exchange. It relates to the need of cash for current transactions, for personal and business exchange. Transaction motive also tells us the need of money can be classified into two ways. One is income motive and second is business motive or purpose. Transaction demand for money is always directly related with the level of income and nothing else. L. L shows liquidity preference. If we denote LT, it means liquidity preference for transaction purpose. We can write MT, capital M and small t. Here M will denote money demand and T will denote transaction purpose. We can write in different forms. LR, MT, any form you can write is equals to KR, KY. K is the fraction of income which people want to keep, hold, or want to keep money in cash form. And Y is the level of income. So money demand for transaction purpose is always related with the level of income. That's why its equation we can write in this form: LR is equals to KY. LR is transaction demand for money. K is the ratio of earning kept for transaction purposes and Y is the income level. Next is the diagram of transaction purpose for demand for money will be always 45-degree line and start from the origin. This diagram shows that there is a proportionate or direct relationship between money demand and the level of income. As well as the level of income rises, demand for transaction purpose money will rise. If income falls, then demand for transaction purpose will also falls. That's why this diagram is always 45-degree line and this diagram will remain same in case of precautionary purpose or demand for money for precautionary purpose. Here K is the fraction of income which people want to keep in cash form and Y is the level of income. And this 45-degree line represent that money demand for transaction purpose is the function of income and money demand for precautionary purpose is also the function of income. That's why the diagram in case of transaction demand for money or precautionary demand for money both will remain same. Here we will write on x-axis transaction demand for money and on y-axis we will take level of money income. And if we are drawing the curve for precautionary purpose, then we will write on x-axis precautionary demand for money and on y-axis level of income. When the level of income is 400, here if income is increases, then level of income transaction demand for money will also increase by the same ratio. So this is 45-degree line represent the direct and proportionate relationship between transaction demand for money and level of income. Next is Speculative demand for money. How we can show speculative demand for money curve, and what is this? Explain. Speculative demand for money is always shows inverse relationship between rate of interest and demand for speculation, demand for money. If market rate of interest is lower, bond price in market is higher, and at high bond price people will not purchase bond, because at lower price people will buy bond, and at higher price people will sell bond. And the difference between lower price and higher price, that will give advantage or profit to the bond purchaser or the person who hold money for this speculation purposes. So at lower price, people will buy bond, and if price is higher, then people will sell bonds in the market. And if rate of interest is higher, then we will not buy bond. We will save our money in. We will keep our money in banks. And if rate of interest is lower, then we don't have any advantage to save our money in banks. That's why we will buy bonds to make multiple money or to generate more money. So speculative demand for money is inversely related with the rate of interest. That's why this diagram is always downward sloping curve. Here we will write on x-axis money demand for speculation purpose, and on y-axis we will take rate of interest. But speculative demand for money, generally it is downward sloping, but it create the problem of or situation of liquidity trap. This situation is liquidity trap. First of all, rate of interest as well as rate of interest falls, demand for speculative purpose will rise. But we know that rate of interest can never be zero. Rate of interest falls, but at reaching a certain level or certain point, it will not fall, it will not go beyond that level. In this case, demand for money for speculation purpose will be perfectly elastic. When speculation demand for money curve becomes perfectly elastic, not downward sloping, or it becomes perfectly elastic or horizontal line or parallel to the x-axis, this situation is known as liquidity trap situation. It means here rate of interest will not fall beyond achieving this certain level. In this case, either you can hold money in cash form, or you don't want to keep money in cash form. You maybe keep money in cash or may not be, but you don't get any advantage. In this case, speculation demand for money will become perfectly elastic. Either you can hold or not. But rate of interest will not fall beyond this certain point. So here this situation is known as liquidity trap, and it generally occur in case of speculative purpose demand for money, not in transaction purpose, not in precautionary purpose, because transaction purpose and precautionary purpose both are related with the level of income, not to the rate of interest. But speculation demand for money is related with rate of interest. That's why it happens, or this situation create only occur in case of speculative purpose for demand for money. Initially, when rate of interest falls, then demand for speculation purpose will rise. As well as rate of interest falls, money demand for speculation purpose will rise. But rate of interest after reaching a certain point like x, rate of interest will not fall. Rate of interest will never fall beyond that certain point. In this case, money demand curve for speculation purpose will become perfectly elastic or horizontal line parallel to the x-axis. In this case, either we can demand more money for speculation purpose or less money for speculation purpose, doesn't matter, rate of interest will not change. In this case, demand curve will be horizontal. And this situation is called liquidity trap. Next is, here the total demand for money we can show. First is, total demand for money is generally the summation of demand for money for transaction purpose, demand for money for precautionary purpose, and demand for money for speculative purpose. Because basically, according to Keynes, these three motives are main important motives on which people demand money. And why people hold money in cash form? Basically for three purposes: transaction, precautionary, and speculative. So total demand is the summation of transaction demand and speculative demand and precautionary demand. The demand for transaction purpose is not related with the rate of interest. That's why curve is vertical or parallel to the y-axis. Here we are showing that demand for transaction purpose is related with only income level, not to the rate of interest. That's why rate of interest either increase or decrease, demand for money will remain constant in case of transaction purpose. And in case of precautionary purpose, curve will same. That's why not draw here for precautionary purpose, because both curves are same. But speculative demand for money is inversely related with the rate of interest. That's why curve will be downward sloping from left to right. And if we add this transaction demand for money and speculative demand for money, then total demand we can get. And this curve will also downward sloping. First is vertical line, that is showing transaction demand and precautionary demand, which is not related with the rate of interest. And from that point we draw downward sloping curve that is showing speculative demand for money, which is inversely related with the rate of interest. So total demand is the summation of LT plus LP plus LS. Next is, this was the topic of your demand for money. That topic is very important, because in this topic always question will come like why people hold money in cash form, what are the purposes of holding money in cash form, and what motives according to Keynes explain for demand for money. And write a short note on liquidity trap, in which you will explain speculative purpose or speculative demand for money. Now the next topic is meaning of supply of money. What is supply of money? Now we have discussed about demand for money. Demand for money is demanded for basically three purposes. Now here we will study about what is supply of money. Who supplies money in the economy? And how money come in the economy? How? What is the way of money through which money comes in the economy? According to Keynes, supply of money is sum of currency issued by Reserve Bank of India or Central Bank of a country and demand deposits held by the commercial banks of a country. So money supply we can define is the sum total of all the currencies issued by Central Bank of a country and demand deposits held by the commercial bank of a country. Or in other words, we can say that the money which people have for all purposes, the cash or coins, currency, paper currency, coins, notes, all the currency which is circulated in our economy, and the money held with the public is also known as money supply. But we will take only one. If we are saying that the supply of money is the sum total of the money or currency issued by Reserve Bank of India and the demand deposit held by the commercial bank, that is money supply, then we will not take the total money or sum total of currency, paper or coins, etc., which public held. Then otherwise, if we take both these, double counting problem will create, because the money which is issued by central bank, that is circulating to the all country people. So the people hold money, or the people, the total currency or paper currency, coins, notes, etc., which held with the public, that is also generated by the or issued by the RBI. So if we are taking the money held by the public, we will not take central bank money or commercial bank demand deposit. If we are taking central bank of a country or demand deposits held by the commercial bank money in definition of money supply, then we will not take the money held with the public. If we take both, then double counting problem will occur. So, according to Keynes, supply of money is the sum total of the money or currency which is issued by apex institution of our monetary authority, that is Reserve Bank of India. All paper currencies, coins, notes, etc. are issued by RBI. But 1 rupee note is issued by Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Only 1 rupee note. Otherwise, all paper currencies, coins, notes, etc. are issued by Central Bank of a country or Reserve Bank of India. Second is supply of money we can define in narrow aspect, that is M1, because money supply can be defined either in narrow aspect or in broader aspect. According to narrow aspect of money supply can be defined, and money supply is the summation of CC, here CC is currency and DD is demand deposits. So the currency issued by central bank and demand deposits held by the commercial bank, if we take the summation of these two components, then we can get money supply, and we can define money supply in a narrow aspect. It means the supply of money is the total quantity of money circulated in a country. So this is the definition of money supply. In money supply, we take in narrow aspect only M1 measure, and M1 measure explain that money supply takes only two things. One is currency and second is demand deposits, which held by the commercial banks, and currency issued by the central bank of a country. Next, money supply has two components: currency with the public. It composed of two elements. One is currency with the public and second is demand deposits with the public. First is currency with the public. In this case, we take currency notes in circulation issued by the Reserve Bank of India. And the second is the number of rupees, notes and coins which are in circulation, that is called money supply. And small coins, all are which are in circulation, that is called money supply. And in demand deposits with public, that is called secondary money. But the currency with the public is known as high powered money, and demand deposits with public is known as secondary money, in which we include deposits of the public with the banks like bank money, demand deposits, time deposits, etc. So money supply has two components. One is currency component and other is demand deposit component. In India, currency component play very important role in money supply. But in developed countries where the banking habits of the country people are very higher or rich, in that case demand deposits play very important role in money supply. But in India, here money market is not well developed, and here people are illiterate. They don't have too much banking habits. That's why in India, people mostly interested to make or do any transaction with the help of currency, coins, notes, etc., not by demand deposits or checks or other mode of payment. They don't like to pay in other forms. So currency component play very important role in India in money supply, but demand deposit play very important role in the component of money supply in developed countries like USA. These are the two components of money supply. One is currency, other is demand deposits. Next is supply of money. We can explain with the help of this chart. Here, supply of money is divided into two parts. One is M1 and second is M2. M1 is defined money supply in a narrow perspective, and M2 can be defined money supply in a broader perspective. So M1 gives narrow definition of money supply and M2 gives broader definition of money supply. In M1, we include C and DD. Here C is currency with the public and DD is demand deposits with banks. And we can take other deposits with RBI also. So M1 we can write in this form, M1 is equals to C plus DD plus OD. Here C is currency, DD is demand deposit and OD is other deposit. And M2 has component, one is M1, M2 shows broader aspects of money supply. That's why in M2 measures, M1 is also included. And besides M1, we take deposits with post office saving account. These are the two main measures, M1 and M2. And other measures of money supply is M3 and M4. M3 is also the best measure of money supply. In this measure, we include M1 and time deposits with banks. So the formula of calculating M3 is M1 plus time deposits with bank, TD. And we can write in short form TD, time deposits. And in M4, we include M3 plus total deposits with post office, in which we include like NSC, National Savings Certificate, etc. So this is the chart of supply of money, in which money supply measures can be classified into four parts. One is M1, second is M2, third is M3, and fourth is M4. And M1 gives definition of money supply in narrow perspective, and M2 or M3 shows money supply definition in a broader perspective. If we ask about this, which one is the best measure of money supply, then we can say that M3 is the best measure of money supply, because in this we include M1 and time deposits with bank. Through this, bank can create more money. Money can be multiply generated through credit creation process if bank have time deposited money. Time deposited is fixed deposit. If people save money in fixed deposit form in banks, then bank can give loan and bank can create more credit. In this form, money will be generated multiply. So M3 is the best measure of money supply, because it increase the supply of money. It is the way of increasing the circulation of money or creating more money with the help of existing money. M1 is gives narrow perspective definition of money supply. That's why M1 is not accurate measure of money supply. M2 is also not best measure of money supply, because it takes only saving account. Through saving account deposits, we can't generate or we can't create multiple money. And M4, in this we take M3 and total deposits with post office. And post office, we know that NSC is a very long time deposit, in which people money is like a stock. We can't use that money in short time period. That's why that is the stable or constant measure of money supply, static measure of money supply. M1 is more liquid measure of money supply. More liquid measure is not good. More static measure is also not good. So M3 is the best measure of money supply. Next is measurement of money supply in India. Money supply has four measures. We can estimate money supply with the help of these four measures: M1, M2, M3, M4. M1 in this we include C plus DD plus OD. Here C is currency or cash with the public, DD is demand deposits with banks, and OD is other deposits with the Reserve Bank of India. In M2 measures, we include M1 and saving deposits or demand deposits with post offices. M3, in this measure, we take M1 and time deposits with banks. And in M4, we take M3 plus time deposits with post offices. We can write measures of money supply in these form also. This is monetary equilibrium. Monetary equilibrium is always determined with the help of money demand and money supply. Money supply is a stock concept because money is supplied by Reserve Bank of India at a particular point of time, not daily. That's why money supply curve will be a vertical line or parallel to the y-axis curve. And money demand curve is always downward sloping curve, which shows inverse relationship between money demand and rate of interest. At higher rate of interest, money demand will be lower, and at rate of interest, money demand will be higher. So money demand curve will always be a downward sloping curve, and money supply curve will always be a vertical line parallel to the y-axis. Where both curve intersect each other, equilibrium point is determined. At this equilibrium point, quantity of money will be determined, and on y-axis we have taken interest rate, so interest rate will also determined. So this is the way from which we can determine the rate of interest and quantity of money. And for this determination or monetary equilibrium, we must have to know about what is money demand and what is money supply. As you know that money demand for money is always, according to Keynesian economics, for three purposes behind this demand for money. One is transaction, second is precautionary, third is speculative. Generally, demand for money curve is which is related with interest rate, that will be downward sloping. But if demand for money is related with income level, that will be 45-degree line. And who supplies money? Reserve Bank of India supplies money. And money supply is always a stock concept because money is supplied by RBI at a particular point of time, not regular base or not daily. So demand for money curve downward, supply of money curve vertical line where both curve intersect each other. Equilibrium point will be determined and equilibrium interest rate will also be determined. This is the curve of monetary equilibrium or monetary how interest rate is determined with the help of money demand and money supply. Then you can draw this type of diagram. Next is monetary base. Monetary base is also known as high powered money because an increase in it leads to multiple increase in the money supply. Monetary base or high powered money both are same thing, and monetary base or high powered money can increase multiple money. It consists of central bank notes, outstandings, coins, and reserves. Central bank notes, outstanding, and coins can be defined as currency in circulation. C we can write, and the reserves are we can denote by R. So monetary base is the sum of C plus R. C is currency and R is reserves. If we include currency and reserves both, then we can get monetary base or high powered money through which we can multiply increase the money supply. We can show high powered money with the help of this diagram. Here diagram is showing that High powered money is the total money supply in which currency and reserves are included, but in currency, but total money supply. Money supply consists only currency and demand deposits. Total money supply is the summation of currency and deposits, but high powered money is the summation of currency and reserves. This is the basic difference between high powered money and total money supply. Next is money multiplier. Money multiplier is the ratio that shows how much the money supply changes for a given change in the monetary base. Generally, money multiplier indicates from how we can make multiple money or how we can generate more money. So, money multiplier is a ratio that shows how much the money supply changes for a given change in the monetary base. Here, M is money supply and small m is money multiplier into MB is monetary base. Because the multiplier is larger than 1, the monetary base is called high powered money, meaning that a change in monetary base by 1% leads to a change in money supply M by more than 1%. Because multiplier always shows multiple effects, multiple change, not same change. So if monetary base increases by 1%, then money supply will increase more than 1% or multiply. That is called money multiplier. Money multiplier always indicates how much money will generate, how much money will create with the help of existing money or monetary base. So if monetary base increases, then money supply will increase by more ratio. How much ratio? That will tells us about multiplier and multiply increase. So this is called money multiplier, which indicates the multiple increase in money supply with the help of existing monetary base or initial increase in monetary base. Next is the factors affecting money supply. What factors affects our money supply in India? Bank credit can affect money supply in India. Deficit financing can affect money supply in India. Foreign exchange reserves also affects money supply in India. Government expenditures affect money supply in India. And FII is foreign institutional investment inflows also affect money supply in India. So money supply is affected by all these factors. If bank will create more credit, then money supply will rise because we know that commercial banks has power to create money or to make more credits. Credit expansion can be possible only by the commercial bank because central bank perform the work function of credit control. But credit creation is the main function of commercial bank. Commercial bank can create more credit with the help of existing deposits. So if bank credit will expand, then money supply will also rise. If deficit financing, it means if government make deficit budget and to compensate this deficit budget always occurs when our expenditures is more than our income. When government expenditures are more than government receipts, then government make deficit budget and to compensate this budget, Reserve Bank issues more paper currency, coins, notes, etc. In this case, deficit financing through this process, money supply will increase. If foreign exchange reserves are more in our country, then money supply will also increase. If government expenditure increases, then government will make deficit budget and to compensate this budget, RBI issues more paper currency, coins, notes, etc. In this case, money supply will rise. And if FII inflows increases in our economy, foreign institutional investment increases, their inflows increases, then money supply will also increase. Now, conclusion: money is used in exchange of goods and services. Money supply is regulated by the Federal Reserve. Money is demanded by the consumer, but money is supplied by the Reserve Bank of India. And the variables which is associated with money demand are price level, GDP, and interest rate. Now, this topic is completed: money demand and money supply. Thank you.